Hey everyone, James Reeves, TFBTV SHOT Show 2025 here at the Mossberg booth with lying son of a bitch, Jeremy, who told me that these shotguns were going to be available in April of 2024. And here we are at the SHOT Show booth. And I think it says new. I think it says new over there. The display I picked these out of said new.
Yeah.
Not quite new. We talked about these last year. What's the deal?
We did. Okay, so this is our professional series. You know, we designed this initially with our law enforcement customer in mind and with a couple of nods towards law enforcement. Now, we'll sell the guns. We don't just sell guns for law enforcement. We don't do that. We're very proud of the Second Amendment. We're very proud of the part we play in it. But there are certain design cues that were set up for LE. And one of them was these sights. So really low profile. We'll talk about the shootability of them, but also to rack. Because there's so much limited real estate inside a patrol car, any sight option has to be low because it'll just take up a lot of room and it won't fit in the rack. So we needed to be able to fit existing racks, and we needed to be able to fit existing racks that in some cases were designed for a competitor shotgun. So the ability to fit into those racks was a big deal. Had to have these low profile sights, and that's where we ran into a little problem last year. So you'll see that this front sight is brazed on. It's welded on. The initial ones, it wasn't. When I spec'd it, I wanted it screwed on because I knew that they'd get beat up in a patrol car, in a patrol environment, and I wanted armorers to be able to replace them. The problem with that is when we started really robustly testing these guns, and I'm talking 10, 20,000 rounds of slugs, we would get some failures. Not across the board, but enough to where we thought, we just can't send it out. We have to fix it.
No, I mean, this is robust as shit. There's even a dumb cop like you couldn't screw this up.
I don't know, man. You know, put me in a room long enough. So that was the big holdup. It wasn't anything nefarious or underhanded. It was that part just didn't hold up the way we needed it to for a gun that was set up for hard duty use. And you know, we talked about the sights last year, about how the sights are designed to keep your head low because now that we have so many smaller police officers on the job and so many smaller shooters getting into the game, we had to be able to change, like, for instance, on our pump guns, we have a super low stock now. So this length of pole is going to be under 12 inches with that removed. So whether you're a big guy shooting the gun or a small person shooting the gun, a short length of pole will work for everybody.
Or if you have armor, or if you're doing entry.
Exactly. So we wanted that flexibility. So that was built into it. The low profile sights to keep the shooter's head mounted to the gun. As you and I have talked about before, the further your head gets away from that gun, the more it smacks your face. With a lot of these younger shooters that are getting into the game now or getting into law enforcement, all it takes is one bad day of getting your face smacked by a 12 gauge and you never want to shoot that gun again.
And when you do, you suck at it because you're flinching.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, we do anticipate that most people will be removing the rear sight plate and dropping a red dot in it. You know, I would hope that that's what they do.
One of the best features about this, in my opinion, sorry to interrupt you, but that's something that we talked about with the 940 Tactical whenever it came out, where I said this is a game changer vis-a-vis shotguns. And look, I mean, it is a shotgun. It isn't like you necessarily need... Look, man, you know how many shotguns you and I both have that just has a brass bead on the front? Absolutely. But if you're using slugs or if you're working in an environment where precision fire is required, it's nice to have. It's also a lot easier to shoot with both eyes open. So I think this is just a massive improvement on the shotgun.
And it's a testament to our engineers, but the way the iron sights are set up is if you're using kind of like the gold standard tactical buckshot, the Federal LE 132, you're good, you know, at 25. But if you switch to a low recoil slug, you're good at 75.
Oh, cool.
It's actually like 73, but we'll call it 75. And it's just, that's the way the math worked out. And people ask, well, how come it's not adjustable? Well, because we have faith and confidence in our barrels. It's not a rifled barrel. It's straight. So you're basically pushing something in a straight line. So if the math is right and the barrel is right, the round's going to impact unless you do something to change its trajectory. It's not like you have to worry about stabilization or spin or anything like that, especially at the distances we're talking about with the shotgun.
Shield RMSC pattern, still Holosun K.
Holosun K, and that's the one that we've tested the most thoroughly, and it has really held up, you know.
See, it's funny because you're showing your true colors as a former writer. Are you still writing, or is it former now?
Former.
Yeah, because you anticipated my question, and that is something that I think a lot of viewers, it's a little nugget of info they're going to pick up, like an Easter egg from SHOT Show. Tell me about the testing you guys did with the Holosuns on these shotguns.
So it was pretty brutal. Like there's like Aaron Cohen drops things and does stuff on. We did that, but with a fully loaded shotgun. And it's funny because we actually had to re-engineer our parts because we would get things like hammer drop, because the gun wasn't designed initially, for a red dot,
right?
To be dropped on a red dot. So you have that instead of it taking it on top of the receiver, now you have a very narrow point where it's focused. And so we had to redesign the hammer. We had to redesign some other internal parts because that's just the way it works. Anytime you change something, there is going to be a cascade of second and third order events that people don't anticipate. So they think, oh, well, all they have to do is just do that. No, that's not the way it works. Especially because we want to make sure we're sending out the safest, most effective tool for our consumer. So yeah, we're talking about dropping it at different angles, throwing it, things of that nature. And of all that pattern that we tested at the time, now there's some newer ones that are out there now that we haven't done that with, but that little Holosun 407K absolutely held up. I mean, in certain cases it would break, but the dot would still be there. It was, I love
that impressed me when you guys were talking about that. You're testing. I'm like, man, this little Chinese optic, that could. Is it not? Yeah.
Yeah. And I know people like to, people are going to have their opinions on it. Trust me, I'm not a big fan of a country that actively works against us.
Yeah, true.
But
it's not politics, but I'll give you that one.
It's like it's like your iPhone, right? Show me something that fits that pattern, made here, and I'll buy it. But that it just doesn't exist at this point.
Right,
and
sure.
that optic has done everything it was advertised to do.
Now walk me through the features real quick. We're going to have a 590 pump version. We're going to have a 940 semi-auto version. We talked about the stock. We talked about the optics and the sights. What else do we have?
All right, so one of the things that we changed, and it was pretty important to us, was the bolt release. Because our gun is set up so that you don't have a third button, like it was some of the European guns where you have the cartridge drop lever, we don't have that. So from the magazine tube, you get in there, and it's simple racket, just like a regular gun, because it's not European. But the downside to that is sometimes this can be sensitive, and if you're locked back, it can induce a malfunction if it takes a hit. So what we did was we changed the shape of it, so you're way less now you have to actually get in there and pull it back, and we put a little, we call it squatty potty, that little protective shroud on it. So if it does get bumped in a rack or something, it won't induce malfunction. We also changed the handguard, and this was a kind of a big deal because with most handguards on most shotguns, they're designed by designers and not people who actually use the guns. We're all users, so me and Bill and Rich sat down with John, our boss, and we hashed this one out. So now you'll notice the QD socket is quite a ways away from the M-LOK slot. So you can run your sling on one side and your light on the same side, and you can still manipulate everything, and you don't have to worry about blocking the light with the sling or inadvertently activating the light with the sling. We have standoff. We have a protective rib up top so you can activate the light. Just a lot of work and thought went into it. The guys did a really good job on it.
And if you want to run a sling up front, you just throw a QD cup up there in your M-LOK, and you're done.
Yeah. In options, you can do whatever the hell you want. Yes, you can use the new handguard on the older 940s. They're backwards compatible. It's something that is going to pop up on our web store eventually when we meet demand with the newer guns. You can see we also added a steel band at the back because a lot of people didn't like the fact that when the gun would heat up when you started shooting it, you'd get a little squeak in it. People are like, oh, I don't like the squeak. So we changed it. Now you have a steel clip back there. You're not going to get that squeak. And we also went to a one-piece mag tube with a metal shroud. So some of the competitors are using a plastic shroud, but we feel like our core consumer wants that metal piece. So we went with a metal shroud, but it's a one-piece tube. And it kind of has taken into account the fact that some of the ammo manufacturers have changed the overall length on their folded cartridges, the way they crimp them. So a lot of people were only getting 6 rounds instead of 7. We've remedied that. It wasn't our issue. It was an ammo issue, but we remedied it with the new one. So the way the guns are manufactured is a little bit different. So we took a look at the way the line went, and we kind of change things up to make it so that there are more hands on the gun. Now, anytime you're talking about attack time or a time that it takes to manufacture something, by adding 10 seconds onto that gun, you have now made that gun much more expensive to produce. But in this case, that's what we've done. So every station is done a little bit differently now. Parts are hand qualified when these guns are put together. The gun gets inspected at the end of the line, the gun gets proofed, and then the gun gets re-inspected, and we give it the professional inspection, where we'll do things like we actually disassemble it, the barrel goes in a jig, a weight gets dropped onto the lug to make sure that that is not going to separate. Little details like that where we have a lot more time on the gun and a lot more hands touching it, which is why the cost on this gun is more. Now,
let's talk about that while I got you on that point. Pump, semi-auto, what are they going for?
I'm gonna have to look at it. They go about $100 more than what they're like the non-professional.
So the basic, this just costs $100 more than
$100 more, includes the Cerakote, includes the different inspection process and the different manufacturing process.
It would cost $100 to Cerakote the son of a bitch.
It would. So we think that you're still getting a lot of value for it, but that's a question I get. People go, well, why does it cost more money? And look, this is the closest thing you're going to get to a custom shop gun from a big producer like us.
I'm not sure you're right. I'm not sure. There's no way it can only be $100 difference. Yeah. I don't think. Where's the MSRP in this? All right, so $1,376. Yeah. Let's find us a plain Jane Mossberg 940 tactical. Where's that at? It's your booth. Oh no, we're going over. We'll follow him. Ambush him over here. He's not expecting this. Let's see what the MSRP is on a plain Jane 940 tactical.
$1,190.
Okay, so what was the price difference?
I don't math.
Well, I didn't even pay attention, and I'm not even good at math. But so, $1,190 for that one. This one was. It's funny we got people over there. It's fine. It's just ambush them too. $1,190 versus $1,376. So I mean that's still.
That's too, but it's not apples to apples because it's not a.
Here comes the excuses.
It's not a direct. That's the SPX, so it's not a direct thing. But when it comes to these guns, the 940, because of the way that we've changed things up, we're actually able to lower the price across the board.
Well, and look, I'll say this. Let's be honest. A $186 difference in MSRP is going to translate to roughly $100, right? In street price. So, I mean, to me, I think this is really impressive that you guys. I just wouldn't buy. I hate saying it. I would just buy this.
I would too. But we want people to have the options.
Sure.
We want people to be able to choose. We want people to be able to know that they can come to us, and we're going to have something. Whether you need to buy a Maverick, or whether you need to buy a professional gun, we want to be able to service you. We want to be able to know. We want you to know that we have something for you.
Very generous of you, Jeremy. I really appreciate it. Guys, we appreciate you watching TFBTV here at SHOT Show 2025. Make sure you subscribe if you want to see everything from the show. We're pushing out 100 videos. Thanks for watching. Take care.